Hey there, hi there, ho there, hello there, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement that's coming up very soon in UofL women's athletics and other things that are going on as we run into. Jeff has
Go.
typed go, go, go 3 times in here. I'm not sure what that means, but are we talking? Are we on the air? Okay. Is this thing working? We have a stellar crew of three today in the house. Uh, Jeff is with me, and did you lose my audio? No, Jeff, I'd never had your audio, so I don't know what happened to it. But I'm getting all these messages now. I'm trying to go through our enter here. Jeff, we think, and Jared are in the house with us.
Yeah,
I'm back.
we definitely. There's Jeff. We lost him for a second, but he's back.
Yeah. Sorry.
Uh,
I
oh,
kept prompting you to go, and because I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm seeing all these go, 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 and then one just says, director,
Yeah.
go.
All right.
What's next? I mean, is it go or I shoot?
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, fun technology, internet problems. We always
Yeah.
have
It's always
it.
always
You
good
gotta
time.
love them. But yeah, it's been a fun and interesting kind of week around here. As we like to do, we'll catch up with the crew that's on board with us each week and kind of see how their week has gone and what's been going on with them. And besides sending scary messages, Jeff, what else have you been up to?
Pretty quiet week overall. Next week and week and a half or so, it's I got a lot going on, but it's a pretty quiet week up to here. Went out last night when I visited with my brother and his family and their kind of neighborhood crew. I go up there occasionally and found out that pickleball is no longer an old person sport or older person sport. It's picked up quite a following among young people. To my surprise, I had not realized that. So interesting. So
Jeff was telling us a story about that. All the crowds were crowded with 30 unders. Now,
yeah,
do
I walked down to Tyler. My brother lives very near Tyler Park. I walked down to Tyler Park before kind of anybody was gathering up there, and there was this huge guy. They just put it in pickleball courts in Tyler Park. The city did. So there's like 2 pickleball courts and 2 tennis courts, and there was this crowd of people. It was probably 40, 50 people. I don't know. My number keeps growing. I don't know. I'm estimating here. Playing pickleball on the 2 pickleball courts and on the 2 tennis courts, kind of making do. Tennis courts much bigger than a pickleball court, but kind of like guessing about boundaries or whatever. But still playing, and like this huge line of people waiting to get on the courts as well. And to my surprise, because I'm thinking of pickleball as having, the demographics of pickleball players, I was thinking, 50, 60-year-olds, maybe a lot. Oh no, there wasn't a person over 30 in that whole group. I was like, whoa, this is a different demographic than I expected to see.
now have you played the game
I
at
have
all
not.
or no?
I've not ever actually really taken the opportunity to do it.
And Jared, have you been a pickleball participant?
I haven't
I
had
like
the time to play or the money to invest in any equipment. But if U of L decides to do some type of media pickleball event, I'd certainly be interested.
I mean, I think it's
yeah, I was just
basically, if you have a court, it's basically just a racket and a ball, right? So it's not too
Right,
much
which you can go
investment.
out and get fairly cheap
Yeah,
ones at like the sporting goods and whatnot
yeah.
nowadays.
And
yeah.
you
I'm
could,
just wondering.
my guess, if you show up at a park or something like that and say, "Hey, can I try this out?" Somebody will loan you one to use. Would be my guess.
There's
So
a lot of U of L fans out there on social media who play regularly that I
yeah,
could always ask around.
yep.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering. Is the ball about the same as a tennis ball, or is
Oh
it
no, no,
bigger?
it's
No,
kind of hard, and it makes a very audible kind of clicking sound. I guess would be the best way to describe it when you hit it.
right, it's somewhere
Uh,
between click and doink,
yeah,
but very
doink. I like that.
plastic based is what it sounds like.
Yeah. And in fact, there are places where pickleball courts have been put in that have drawn some complaints because of that noise is loud enough to disturb residences nearby. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's very audible. when you're sitting there watching it. Yeah. In Tyler
So,
Parkway, the courts are kind of in the or Tyler Park, the courts are kind of in the middle of the park.
oh yeah,
So
it's
there's
kind
some
of like down in that
space.
cavern down there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's kind of down below, so there's some sound absorption going on. So those aren't bad. But I've heard about some other places where it's been a little bit of a problem. So
Yeah. Oh gosh, that takes me back late nights at Tyler Park when I was a late teen, and we weren't playing pickleball.
no,
But anyway, yeah. Uh, so that's good, Jared. What have you been into this week, man? The photography shots getting ready to jump back into full swing again here for you.
Yeah, because I haven't done too much photography stuff, so I'm excited. Men's soccer has an exhibition I'll head to tonight, and then we'll kind of talk about it here in a minute. But women's soccer gets started next week, so it's still been mostly Olympics for me. So the Olympics are wrapping up at a perfect time as sports pick up, and then you get into the debate of do just gold medals count or do all medals count?
Yeah, I think all medals. If you're good enough to get third, that's still worthy of counting. Come on, man.
so worthy of
Yeah,
celebrating, certainly.
right.
Yeah,
If you're going to award people medals, put them on podiums, and even play bronze medal games, then to me, all medals are counting.
Yeah.
yeah. Why not? I mean, hey,
I
maybe you
in the abstract, I'm going to celebrate a whole lot more than that. Like I'm going to celebrate. We were talking about, and I mentioned last week that I'm not all that big of a fan of sports in the Olympics that use judges scoring to determine the outcome. But I sure watched some diving to support Elsa Prestrink, right? And she came in ultimately came in 12th, right?
I
But
think
But
I'm
she's
going to
yeah,
celebrate that. That's heck of
top
an
12 in the
accomplishment.
world is
Yeah,
phenomenal.
absolutely. I'm going to celebrate that.
and she's going to be back at Louisville for another year. Am I
I think
right,
so.
guys?
I think
I think
so,
so.
based
Yeah.
off the COVID eligibility, because your fifth year seniors you're seeing this fall are the final group of your COVID
Yep.
eligibility folks.
I will need to get in touch with my old buddy Arthur Albiero down there and see if we can possibly line up an interview with her with photos. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'd gladly join you for that.
Because it seems like just from in the little bit I've seen of her, she really does have a great personality.
It's
So
been my perception as well. I've not had the opportunity to meet her
yeah,
individually, but yeah,
you would.
she was listed as a senior in last year's roster. They don't have the updated roster on there yet, but I believe she is coming back to you as her COVID year. Is my understanding.
We will have to check that
Yeah.
and see, and then see if she would be willing to do so. I couldn't see why she wouldn't be, but and maybe she'll even do it in her bathing suit. Wow. Okay, I'm definitely there. As for me, just another week trying to deal with the life of needing the kidney as we have gone through a couple things this week that I wasn't really happy about, where I had to actually go out of town and spend a very uncomfortable night in a, I'm not even going to call it a twin bed. It was a tiny bed, and I'm not a tiny guy, and had to spend the night there for overnight observation and testing and all kinds of stuff. As a result of it is I got very little sleep and had an orderly that was coming in at the most inopportune times when I was just about to drift out to adjust something or move something or wake me up to give me something. And
I've
it
never
was,
had an overnight in the hospital, but I've always heard that you never sleep well.
you don't. No, you
Yeah.
don't. It's, I've, from previous hospital stays, I always sleep so much better the first night back home
Yeah.
because I've been so sleep deprived in there. And you don't rest in a hospital because
Yeah.
there's just too much going on.
They got everything hooked up to you. Everything's beeping and flashing, and they come
Oh
in
yeah,
every half hour to check on you.
yeah, all that, and then if you're lucky enough to be in a private room, that's good. You're fine there.
Helps. Yeah.
But if you happen to be sharing a room with somebody, and if they're in obvious distress and discomfort and pain and stuff, that could also keep you awake. So, in any event, Anyway, but we're back now. Everything's good. They are, of course, is still actively putting me through tests and stuff, and then maybe one of these days a kidney will show up on my front door. We'll see. Maybe for Christmas I'll get one. The cards have been busy. We aren't really doing the scheduling and Twitter, but the athletes of the fall sports have been very, very active trying to get ready for those fall sports in practices and such. And it looks like to me one of the uh, areas that we could look at and talk about here a little bit is the new ACC squads that will be, or ACC squads that will be joining the conference this year. Jared did the third of his article was on Stanford this week, and I recommend that you catch that at the Cardinal Couple columns on our daily update on the web at cardinalcouple.com. But the Stanford, boy, they are coming in here loaded for bear, aren't they, Jared? They have quite a few athletic programs that are top notch and also some that we don't participate in, but in the ones that we share, they're pretty good.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I believe of all the Division One universities, they sponsor the most sports teams. If I was researching correctly, uh, just an insane amount that they've got total, and all these teams are phenomenal. You've got national champions, runner-ups, teams that are making elite eights and sweet 16s and all sorts of different events. It's not like these teams that they ever run down poor teams and that they're just throwing a little bit of money. No, Stanford's got quite the investments in each of their sports financially and have done a good job. There's a couple maybe that they could be a little bit better on, such as field hockey, women's lacrosse, or a couple that come to mind. But as we've seen in recent years, Louisville versus Stanford women's basketball, it's been an epic showdown. Same with for volleyball. And we get to see a lot more of these going forward every year. That it just makes the ACC that much better, especially when you come to the Olympic sports. I don't think they carry much weight when it comes to football and men's basketball. Neither does Cal or SMU, in my opinion. But in terms of just money investments and Olympic sports success, it's going to be a lot different.
And Jeff, you have actually, out of the three of us, been to the campus.
I did.
And
Yeah. I went out there one of my crazy road trips a couple years ago. Went to watch volleyball play out there, and it's a little bit of a also personal trek to Silicon Valley area, being an IT computer geek kind of person. But yeah, it's a beautiful campus. They really do. I mean, they talk about it all the time. They call it the farm, and I mean, it is very beautiful. It's got a lot of open space. Yeah, some great architecture on it.
I'm also rather tickled that they are coming into the ACC along with Cal because I was reading on some of the past rivalries that they have had with Cal over the years, and this I think even kind of uh, yours ups and beats what we've got going with Kentucky in some areas, guys. Some of
Yeah,
the
obviously there's some proximity there. You're going from Stanford down in Palo Alto, which is South Bay, south of San Francisco, and Cal, which is in Berkeley, which is across the bay. So there's they've got that proximity thing going on, closer even than Louisville and Kentucky are. But maybe a longer drive just because traffic out there is crazy. But yeah, it's a proximity thing nearby, and both those kind of California vibe schools going on.
and reading some very very entertaining stuff about the stealing of each other's mascots as well, which of course are pretty good stories where they actually stole the tree one time or the costume from the previous year, the tree, stole the tree, and then we're driving it back to the Cal campus, and the guys that were had it in the van were opening the back of the van and showing the tree to cars that were behind them and passing by them. And then they got the great idea to throw the tree on somebody. the mascot of the tree. And
Mm.
unfortunately, the person who had the tree hit their car, had to hit their car right on the windshield, and they couldn't see where they were going.
Ugh.
And yeah, ended up swerving off the highway and doing considerable damage to the car, but not getting hurt. Thank goodness for seatbelts, right? But
Hey.
so the Stanford people started using the motto: "If a tree falls on the interstate, will anybody hear it?"
Yeah. And of
Kind of
course,
like that.
famously, Stanford, their tree mascot is created each year by the student that portrays it. So they create their own mascot uniform every year. So it's just why it always looks different every year.
Yeah, and it's a one and done for it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
once it's
Yeah,
done,
and they're pretty creepy looking.
Yeah.
they can be really scary. Some of them can.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sure can. And I mean, unlike the cow bear, which is kind of it's a bear. Okay, well they don't get a different bear every year, and but so
And Jared, if I remember correctly, I'm asking you because you did marching band, right? Their marching band doesn't ever like march. They just kind of walk, not in step.
It's like a what we would call in the band world park and play. So you'll kind of walk or march to your spot, and then you just stop and play. So like you're parking in your spot and
Yeah.
you're playing, and
But
it's very
like when they're in
student run.
yeah, but like when they're in parades and stuff, they're not marching in step in the parade. They
No,
just
they
kind of
don't
they all
march in
just
time.
yeah
They just do their own little thing.
yeah.
Which,
So
to each their own. They're a pretty heavy student run
yeah
organization, especially on the pep band side, which has led to some issues during NCAA tournament games where maybe they were a little too far out of line or inappropriate because you don't have an adult director there kind of keeping everybody in line. So I know Stanford's gotten involved a little bit more in recent years, but they still pretty much just let students do their thing for it.
I don't know if they could reach the audacity of the Virginia Tech pep band though, or marching band. Years ago, we made the trip to Blacksburg, a group of us, to watch football down there. And that's back when Louisville had Ron Cooper and Virginia Tech was good. And so they were basically just driving the cards up and down the field and scoring on them. And the band for Virginia Tech was down behind one of the end zones and just having a field day and loving it and running over to the small section of Louisville fans that were there and taunting us and flipping us the bird and everything else. So I started throwing peanuts at them. uh, Emptied about a half a bag on them, and then all of a sudden the Virginia Tech security officials decided that they didn't want the band fed. So they came over and talked to me rather harshly about doing that. And I said, I'm just throwing peanuts out there. Okay. It's not like I'm throwing quarters or nickels or anything like that. And the band seems to really love it. They must be hungry. The guy said, well, if you do it again, we're going to throw you out of here. I said, will you throw me to the band? Like I've been throwing them peanuts? They didn't see the humor in it. But anyway, yeah. But I'll tell you about Virginia Tech and not to get too far off subject here, but I have seen some very, very great and very wonderful football pregame tailgates in my life. I've been fortunate enough to see those. The spread that they lay out at Virginia Tech pregame is incredible, and it's all free.
Mm.
I mean, just table after table after table of any type of tailgate food you could want. Heavy on the meats, of course. They have bratwurst and they have sausages and they have hamburgers and hot dogs and ribeyes. They have all kinds of side dishes to go with them. And all you got to do is, well, we went down there and saw it, and we were kind of like, wow, that looks like awfully good. I wonder how much that costs to go through. And one of our guys went over and said, hey, how much is a plate here? The guy said, "It don't cost nothing. Just grab a plate and get some food." And we did, and it was fantastic. So
Yeah.
Louisville, you could learn from that because I mean, it just think of your favorite things that you like during a tailgating session.
Yeah.
It was probably there.
Yeah. It's always nice when like the away fans are respected and included. You know,
Oh,
I've had an
absolutely.
experience with going to volleyball stuff that I've had a mix of experiences. I got to be blunt. Stanford was one of my worst experiences as an away fan. They were downright rude, to be honest. But one of my best was actually Penn State. They were very friendly. They were welcoming. Notre Dame was also very welcoming. But at Penn State, they have their creamery on site, and they have ice cream after the games. Like people came over and invited us to come enjoy some ice cream with them. It's like, well, that's pretty cool. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that would be fun. We went to a Penn State football game up there on campus years ago, and we drove through probably 4 hours of rain
Mm,
to get to the campus, and it was
yeah.
just miserable and horrible. And uh, it was raining there when we got there, and we had no clue on where to park or what to do or anything. It was just Sonya and I, and so I said, let's just get as close to the stadium as we can and act like dumb Kentuckians and see if we can get lucky. And so I pulled up to this area that was, you know, parking pass, yada, 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 needed here and stuff like that. I just drove up like I owned a place and said, "Hey, can I park here?" He goes, "Sir, no, this is the reserve park." I said, "Well, I got this $20 bill that says I can park here, maybe." And the guy looked at me and he looked in the car and everything, and he just kind of like, "Okay, yeah, come on." He, hop, he hops on my hood and just starts pointing. So I'm driving along at about 5 miles an hour with him on my hood, and he's giving me, "Turn here." He parked me within 50 yards of the stadium.
Wow.
Yeah,
Ooh, nice.
beautiful. I mean, yeah, I never used to be able to really hardly get that close in UofL days. But, and he says, "You take your keys with you and lock it up." I just I handed him the 20, and he said, "Have a great day." And off he went back into the gloaming. And so I looked at Sonia. I said, "Why did we luck into one here?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but road trips always fun, always a great time. But so out of the rivalries that we're going to have with some of these schools, and admittedly, we probably haven't talked about TCU's, or about well, now I'm lost here. Uh,
Oh,
we have
SMU.
SM.
SMU, yeah, that's what it was. We have probably haven't talked about as much as them as we have Cal and especially Stanford. But are there any particularly rivalries between the women's sports that you guys are really anxious to see amongst us and the new members?
Volleyball
Yeah,
with Stanford.
volleyball and women's basketball with Stanford, I think, are the two really biggies of the ones joining that are, long time, or at least fairly long time rivalries with U of L. Not just rivalries, but always been good matchups. We'll say that.
Certainly so. I mean, the days of Tara Vanderveer and all that in basketball, I certainly remember quite well. But yeah, it's going to be a great thing. And the thing about it is, though, you're seeing in so many different areas now about the ACC isn't going to last much longer. It's going to fall apart. Uh,
I
they're
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, they're predicting a Pac-12 like a doom for it. And the way I see it is, it's a pretty strong conference, but there are certain schools that would probably do better if they left the ACC to go to uh, more predominant conferences. And really, there aren't that many of those. Maybe the Big 12, maybe the SEC, Big 10. I don't know. But a school like Florida State with their football program, or Clemson with their football program. I guess the question to you guys is: would Louisville be better off anywhere else than they are right now?
I don't think Louisville's going to get into most places.
And kind of defend your stance there.
I don't think the SEC has really shown any interest in adding more teams if they're not adding Florida State and Clemson, at least from a monetary perspective with the football TV money. I don't think Louisville's got a shot, and I certainly don't think the Big Ten would look at Louisville from an academic standpoint, which would be the two closest conferences to join. I mean, I think I could see the Big 12 certainly expanding at some point to add on some teams, but I really feel like the ACC is holding steady, at least for now.
Well, what do you think, Jeff? Is it something that if we had a chance to jump, should we, or are we kind of at where we want to be right now?
I would say I think the ACC is certainly a very acceptable place. I think they're, if we had the chance to jump, then sure. I mean, it's yeah, it is a everybody out for their own self-interest sort of thing. Honestly, as gross as that feels on occasion, that's really what it is. And so, yeah, if we got a chance to go to the Big 10 or the Big 12, yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be financially beneficial for us to do that. And I think we probably should. They would be, as far as the sports that I care about, which don't get any real consideration in these decisions, unfortunately. They would both be very great conferences to land in and be quite comfortable with it, which is nice. But yeah, I mean, I think there's, is it a financially beneficial thing to make a change like that? Yeah, probably is. So, I mean, that's ultimately the decision making factor. I don't like it. I don't like that it's that way, but that is what it is.
And I think one of the areas, and obviously the two driving areas of any major college athletic program, are football and men's basketball. They are your money makers. They are the ones that kind of drive the boat for the rest of the programs in the athletic program, so to speak. I could see us getting up some very, very nice rivalries with some of these schools that are in the SEC as far as both basketball and football go. In women's athletics, as particularly, let's say, women's basketball and field hockey, though, there are some storied programs in women's basketball in the SEC as we know it now. And our old buddy Sam Purcell is down there at Mississippi State now. That's just a rivalry crying out to happen.
Yeah.
We have had so many epic battles with Tennessee in, of course, women's basketball. That would be the only conference I think that we would be beneficial in going into. But then again, if the Big 12 came calling, what do you do? And if the implosion of the ACC is evident as people are saying it is, it might not hurt to have an eye open and to kind of see what the landscape looks like around you.
But all these schools have threatened to leave the ACC. Well, one, they haven't, and two, which conferences have openly said anything about actually being interested at this time?
Yeah, and that's the key right there, Jared. It's yeah, we would love to go, but is anybody inviting us? That kind of deal.
So, I mean, you can make empty threats if you want. I think the ACC is just calling their bluff on it right now.
Yeah, legally as well.
There's certainly some contractual obligations you've got there that I believe are in the hundreds of millions of dollars, if I read everything correctly.
Yeah, once again, legal and lawyers raise their head and say, "Oh, did somebody wake us up? Yeah, well, yeah, we're in this." So we'll probably be in this ACC for quite some time. As far as I can see right now, unless something implodes. Like, of course, the Pac-12 surprised me the way it fell apart so soon.
It really did.
It was
colossal. It collapsed colossally.
It was. It was just like, wow, this was a strong conference, and all of a sudden, You know,
It
it's
was a
nothing.
strong conference, but man, they were never able to get good TV rights deals,
That's
and that's
true
what
too.
sunk them, right? So, I don't know why. I don't know if it's just incompetence on the administration's part there or what, but man, they never got any decent TV deals, and you know, they collapsed because of it. Certainly, it's directly traceable to it.
With the preference, though, I think of pro sports out in the areas and the towns where the Pac-12 schools were, uh, much more than I think the ACC had.
Yeah,
Could have been part of the reason as well, but time will tell. For now, we're ACC, and I won't have to go out and buy new clothing, so that's good. Uh, Other events that are going on and happening, and certainly one that I have never attended, but it's an event that has been at 4th Street Live, Churchill Downs, Louisville Slugger Field, and now going to be headed to the first time ever in a venue called the KFC Yum Center.
which is really
Oh,
kind of
really?
odd,
It,
but
it is in
Never
a
heard of
way.
that place before.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's, are they opening up for Def Leppard or something? I mean, no.
it's like yeah, this is the home floor for these sports that this event is going to celebrate, and it hasn't been at that location. It's kind of an odd thing.
But certainly, if what we're talking is, of course, Louisville Live. Now, Jared, you've attended this event in the past, I think. Jeff, have you ever been down to one?
I have not.
Okay, but Jared, I know you've gone down and taken photos before.
Oh yeah, the year they did it at Slugger Field, I was down there, and that was the for women's basketball. The last year we had Peyton Burholz, Haley Van Lith on that team, just to give some folks kind of uh, maybe a reminder of who we had at the time. And then that was Kenny Payne's first of 2 years at
Introduction.
Louisville. Yeah.
Yeah.
So due to a lot of lack of success, they decided, and rightfully so, just not to have it last year. And uh, with the women's basketball program certainly having a bright future ahead, and men's basketball cleaning house and starting over pretty much.
Yeah.
Things are looking a lot better. Season ticket sales are up for both of the sports right now. Certainly a good time to bring it back. And you've already got a contract with the Yum Center, so you're not dealing out more money to go to elsewhere. And the Yum Center is built for people to watch basketball or basketball related events. Slugger
Yeah.
Field, the court was far away and raised way above what people could see. I heard it was kind of a similar issue at Churchill Downs, is you've got a court that's several feet up in the air. Well, then people can't see it. So I understand bringing it back to the Yum Center, and I'm fully supporting that.
Yeah, the Churchill Downs would have been probably an interesting and a fun one to go to. I can still remember back when Churchill Downs used to have an event out there in the infield. It was a big volleyball tournament, and they had, good God, what, maybe 50 volleyball nets set up. And you could get up a team and kind of decide what
Yeah.
classification you were in, whether it was expert or novice or whatever. Turn in your roster, turn in your money, and they gave you a time to play volleyball. And if you won, you kept going. We actually did that a couple years. Unfortunately, the teams that I was on never got past the initial round. So, but the beer was cold, and we were out in the infield at Churchill Downs, so it was a fun time. Back to Louisville Live a bit though. Jack Harlow has been to the event. Uh, do you think it's the kind of thing that really draws the entire Card Nation into it to kind of watch it, or is it just specifically designed for certain sports?
It's set up just to raise hype for basketball. That's the entire purpose of it. Which I think is you've got a new hope basically for both teams this coming season. Great time to bring it back. It's a good time to push for more season ticket sales if you're looking at it from a athletic standpoint on trying to generate revenue. I think they put it on TV usually. It's a great way to meet a lot of the new players, new faces. Obviously, both teams have a lot of them this year, but it's designed for the fans, and that's exactly how they treat it.
A fan-friendly event. And we'll see how it goes this year. Certainly, we'll see what kind of dignitaries they bring in to, I don't know, what do you call, host it or be a voice in it and stuff. Anybody particular you'd like to see show up down there for it, Jared?
The famous Paul Sykes.
Oh, yeah. I would have to be brought in with my entourage in a cart, you know, a golf cart.
I'm not really picky on who they bring in. Certainly, folks that have a connection to Louisville and UofL and support UofL. So please don't bring in random strangers that are like, wow, coming here other than being paid for an appearance type stuff.
That's true. And of course, they've had Angel McCaughtry at it before, and certainly she is the first lady of women's basketball at Louisville and always will be in kind of my way of thinking and heart and stuff. But yeah, if they could bring in some pretty neat, maybe former hoops players that come back in and
Yeah, certainly bringing
uh,
in alumni is always a big win. Jack Harlow, I think, is good. Obviously, he's a big. He's born and raised in Louisville. He's been a UofL fan all of his life. He's a big supporter. Um, he's he's not a terrible athlete in his own right. You know, so I think he really fits that bill really well. So I'd love to see him back. I've never met the Ben personally, but by everything I've seen, he's certainly a great hype man for the city and the university. So, other than that, yeah, alumni would be good, I think.
always a good time and fun time, and certainly no worries about seating having it in the KFCM Center. Plenty of places to park your keister and watch and have fun. Uh, and that's coming down and they're going to happen Friday, October 4th. So we'll certainly be into all three seasons that we kind of follow during the fall time. Yeah, as far as around, October 4th, can think about it, women's soccer will be about two-thirds done. Yeah, just to give you an idea. And if you take a look at field hockey, I think they'll have like maybe 6 games left or so, or that, and then they'll be done for the season. So, of course, it's a basketball event, and we'll do it. Would you like to see it expanded out, maybe more for more fall sports guys?
I don't think you're really going to ever see that because Louisville Lab pretty much mirrors any other
Yeah.
schools event. Kentucky's got that Midnight Madness where they do the same thing, and you'll see a lot of schools. It's just all about basketball, really.
Yeah.
And so
I
good.
think if you start bringing in all the fall sports, it gets a little cluttered.
For sure.
And a lot of the fall sports do something sort of kind of their own in a similar sort of fashion. I'll speak to volleyball. Red and black scrimmage next week, 7 days from today, actually, is kind of their event like this. It's during a practice time period. You get to see, the the team in an intra squad scrimmage, and there's an event afterwards for all season ticket holders and all that. It's a similar sort of event for volleyball, and it's done in their own style and approach, and I think it works pretty well to do that. I don't know about the other sports whether they have anything similar. I guess I'm not particularly familiar with any, so maybe that's something they could pick up on and do something like that.
We've also gotten notice that the Fall Sports Media Day, which UofL has every year, will be coming up Tuesday of next week. They'll be having this over at the Planet Fitness Scuba Center on campus in the little media room that they have there, which kind of surprised me they're going there this year, Jeff. Traditionally in the fall, they tend to take this one over to a larger venue like the women's and men's soccer complex over there. And I think you've attended them over there at that one before too.
Yeah, once or twice. Yeah. Yeah,
But
it's
this year, no.
yeah, the media room there is not huge. It's yeah, I don't know how much it'll spill over. I suspect it'll end up spilling over a little bit, particularly if they have, kind of where they've done in the past, where they have breakout times where different media folks can talk to individual, athletes and stuff. I suspect that's got to spill out a little bit into a larger area to be able to really pull that off. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it progresses. I'm not sure I'll be able to make it. I might, but I'll have to look at my schedule and see what that's like, and see if I can get away during the day.
All things holding as they are, I'll be in attendance and have had some. I didn't get to go last year to the fall one. We had Case in as our representative for that, if I remember correctly. Uh, but I can remember in past years, especially over at the soccer complex, having to basically play ping pong with another Louisville sportscaster,
Yeah,
uh, asking questions right and left because we were the only two media representatives there.
yeah.
And there was about 12 student aides and other types from the Louisville sports administration sitting around. But as far as questions goes, it was him and I asking stuff. And when it got to the time where we were discussing tennis, I was at a loss.
Yeah, and
So
so is he probably.
yeah, he was as well. But we're kind of like those. I was like, those are interesting shoes that you wear. Are those the ones that you
Yeah.
wear on the tennis court? Or what does Coach think about you guys? Breaking curfew hours. Do you ever do that? But no, it's a
Yeah,
good event, and we'll do what we can with it. I can, yeah,
we
but
will do our part to represent those sports as best we can, and hopefully other media outlets get on board over time.
We certainly do our part throughout the season
Yeah,
to give these sports a recognition.
and certainly we do, and I think that one of the areas that I've had people talk to me about is the way that you guys kind of go sometimes a little bit off the beaten path to do a human interest or a story on an event or an activity or something what the average reader may not have any clue about, but can learn from. And we've been fortunate to be able to do that in the past with certain things. And I think one of the areas that I've been interested in kind of watching so far when we speak of the Olympics is one of our Louisville swimmers on the women's swim team, or actually a diver, uh, Elsa Prasternick, made it to the Olympic finals, and that's a pretty neat story, guys. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, she certainly deserves a lot more recognition than I feel like media outlets have given her. Certainly, UofL has released their report or graphic or whatever you want to call it at that point, but you haven't seen really any media outlets give much discussion over it other than maybe a statement on Twitter. They're not doing articles and reports or even trying to interview her, which is kind of a shame in my opinion.
yeah. Unfortunately, I think some of that comes from the fact that she's not representing the U.S. She is obviously from the Netherlands, so she's not representing the U.S. She is representing another country. So I think that kind of dampened some of the media interest in it, which is unfortunate because I think she is a really great ambassador for the university. Again, like we talked about, uh, everything we've always seen or heard about her is that she is a wonderful person and genuine delight to talk to you. So, it's I think it's an unfortunate miss for the media on this, but what can you do?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the bottom line. What can you do? So we'll see, and hopefully, like I was talking with the guys about earlier, we're going to try and catch up with her this fall if she's back on campus and go through, of course, Arthur and her head coach and see if we can hook up an interview and talk with her kind of about what the Olympic experience was and some of the things that she went through and some of the things that she, you know, liked, some of the things that she didn't like so much. We'll try to just have a frank and open discussion with her because she, I think, would be a fascinating interview for us to do. And of course, we'll report about it on Cardinal Couple when we do it too. So you can read all about it. Uh, Certainly, one that we've enjoyed following quite a bit so far is the women's basketball team in the Olympics. They roll along with that. Any Cardinals on the squad this year, unfortunately, from Louisville. But I think I was counting up, and uh, I think we have Louisville has played in college games. I think 11 of the 12 players on the team is what I came up with. I got 10 at first look, and then kind of looked a little bit longer, and I said, "Wait a second, we've got 11 here." Uh, what kind of interest have you guys taken in what the Olympic women's basketball team has been doing?
I haven't really limited mine to just a sport or two. Before you hopped on, I was telling Jeff I've already watched gold medal matches this morning for table tennis, water polo, handball. So I'm not really picky on what's going on. The only one I've really disliked for a sport so far has been breaking/breakdancing. I think it's been absolutely terrible, awful. It's not relatable to what you would consider. I mean, just the average semi-professional breakdancer in the United States does. So I'm kind of embarrassed that this is what we have representing not just the U.S. but all around.
I guess, Jeff, we got to ask the question: is it really a sport?
Oh, there's a lot of things in the Olympics that I would ask that question now. What I will reliably say, because I say this about things like college cheerleading too, so it is definitely athletic. I don't want to take away from the athleticism in any way. Is it a sport? Is it a sport that's particularly sport that's worthy to be in the Olympics? Gosh, I don't know. Reasonable people can certainly disagree. Um, I have not sought out like breakdancing. I haven't. I guess I commented last week. I was saying that I'm not particularly a big fan of sports that use judges scoring um, as as a criteria, as the decision making for who wins. Unfortunately, that does include stuff like diving that we were talking about and gymnastics, which is obviously very, very big. Those are probably the two that I do best with in that area, but kind of generally not a big fan of them. So,
From a dictionary definition, it's certainly a sport. The Cambridge Dictionary has sport defined as a game, competition, or activity needing physical effort and skill that is played or done according to rules for enjoyment and or as a job. So I certainly think it checks all those boxes. And as Jeff just mentioned, cheers should follow in that same boat. A lot of people argue cheers not a sport, but also when you look at this competition with physical effort with rules, well, marching band competitions would also fall under a sport there. Maybe not in the same realm as some of your much more physical sports, but all these would be defined as sports.
Sports indeed, and we'll be following them pretty closely coming up very, very soon as women's soccer has already had an exhibition. We mentioned they defeated EKU 2-1 in Richmond. Uh, I was able to get that information from the sports information director for Louisville Women's Soccer, who said, "If I get any further details, I'll let you know." I just got a text saying we won 2-1. So exhibition, okay, fine. We have covered other exhibitions in the past quite fully, but obviously not the case on this one. But they do actually start the season, as we mentioned earlier, on the Thursday, the 15th, with the Bellarmine coming in, followed by in fairly rapid succession here, guys. Two more home games where they play UAB on Sunday. That would be the 18th, and then New Hampshire comes to town. on Thursday the 22nd. So you have basically, well, 3 games there within a week's time. Early thoughts on this soccer program, fellas? It's a program that I don't know if we're seeing the fat lady approach the microphone to get ready and singing yet or not, but they need kind of a turnaround. Thoughts on that?
I don't really know what to say about the program until I see them next on Thursday. Just because if we're going based off last season, I thought it was just pretty pitiful. But when you see players come in, go out, changes are made. So without seeing this year's team play, I don't really want to say or speculate anything yet.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not particularly knowledgeable in soccer. I haven't followed as much what is going on with the team. The vibe feels a little better. Let me say it out. Talking about vibes, the vibe feels better from where I sit, at least. Whether that will translate into actual success on the field is obviously the big question. But the vibe feels better right now, I think.
Certainly, I had a nice interview with Karen Ferguson Days, the head coach of the program, and she seemed very optimistic. It was not a interview where I actually went on campus and sat down and talked with her as I've done in past years. This was conducted via phone, but certainly she seemed very excited about the season to start and was very excited about the girls. And one of the things that I think really stood out to me in talking with her is that she was basically pleading, she said, "You need to come out and watch these girls. They are not going to give up on anything. They fight to the end. They fight for each other, and they never say die." And she was talking about how much fun it was for her to coach a team like this.
Gosh, what are they? The Goonies?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Yeah, it's the Fantastic Three. No. So we'll see what happens with that. I can certainly, and then just take a little look at maybe the first 5 here on the schedule. Bellarmine is probably going to be a win. UAB I know nothing about, but New Hampshire, NKU. Uh, I wouldn't be surprised to see this team 4-0, guys, to start out.
Oh yeah, it's
Yep.
a fairly easy non-conference schedule so far.
my problem is that I wouldn't be surprised to see us 4-0, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see us 0-4. That's my problem, and that's what we'll see what happens when we get started.
Yeah, absolutely so. As we had talked about at the end of the season, and then in other discussions about it, we certainly need some scorers on the squad. Girls that can come in and actually kick the ball into the net and get points on the board for the Cards. Defense really hasn't been too horrible over the last couple of years. Maybe in some isolated occasions where they did give up 4 or 5 goals, but there was like schools like Florida State or schools like that. But they sure need to score, and hopefully she's got some scorers coming in. Uh, a former Card that was a pretty decent player and now is involved in what they call the WMF. And let's take a look at this. Case was writing an article on this today.
I was just reading that actually right now. So
yeah, the Mini Football Federation. What do we know about this? It seems to be a federation that covers multiple types of mini football, uh, taking smaller versions of traditional soccer and other indoor formats. And this all came as a brand new surprise to me. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, it's news to me. The goals are also half the size, which gotta make scoring more difficult. Oh,
it's much smaller. It's like a 6-on-6, 6v6, but it's outdoors. There's because you do see there's indoor soccer that runs similar fashion, but this is all
Right.
outdoors, as you mentioned. It's smaller goals. It's a smaller field in general.
Shorter game,
The
50 minutes for a match.
U.S. Won a few years ago. I want to say maybe in like 2020, the World Cup back then. There was one of them recently that didn't happen due to the COVID pandemic. But other than that, I'm not overly familiar with it. You don't really see much of that around here. So it's hard to truly say.
And former card Kayla Dickerman is a strong participant in the sport and is selected to the U.S. national team roster for the event. Of course, her days as a Cardinal were back from like 1914, or excuse me, 2014 to 2017. And I can remember her playing quite well. A fun interview, and certainly wanted to continue playing the sport. But this court has got me kind of like, wow, 46 to 50 meters long instead of the traditional 105 meters
Yeah.
long. It's half the distance, and
60.
then
Yeah, it's half. Everything's basically half the dimension on the field, length, width, goal size, which makes it overall a quarter of the size of the space. But you've got 6 players aside versus 11. It's yeah. It feels a little bit like also the shorter clock. It feels a little bit like rugby sevens compared to general rugby. Although they play on regular size field, it's a much shorter timed game with fewer players on the field. So it feels like a similar sort of attempt to take this big expansive game and kind of cut it down to be a little bit more palatable. Maybe, I don't know. It would be interesting to watch some of this.
or maybe kind of like a 3-on-3 basketball instead of a
Similar sort of
5-on-5.
thing. Yeah. Take fewer players, shorter time, half the court. The same sort of concept there. Yeah.
So certainly we'll follow quite closely and see how Kayla does in this, as we certainly enjoyed her as a player here at Louisville.
You mentioned 3-on-3 basketball, and I'm going to throw a little shade at a rival
Yeah.
school. There's a player on that U.S. team that got bronze that she never won any of the times that her team played against Louisville in her entire career.
Gee, Jared, who would that be? The cards, yeah. Anyway, you have to kind of wonder about the rest of the world when they look at 3-on-3 as a chance to kind of come in and slap America if they get the chance to. Because if you'd watched or listened to any of these games, the crowds that were cheering for whoever was playing America in the United States were much louder than the cheering for the United States. So, is it, normally we're used to walking into an event and saying, hey, here we are, look at us.
Which is true, but that's also why the crowds tend to cheer against us, because they like to cheer for underdogs, a lot of times.
Good point there, too. So, Olympics rolling on, only a little bit left in them, so we'll see what happens with that.
So an interesting point, since we're talking about basketball, interesting point. My mother mentioned this the other day. The final games for the men's and women's regular basketball for the U.S. are both playing France.
In their home venue.
Yeah. That's just an odd little coincidence that I thought was interesting.
I haven't followed the French roster all that closely, so I don't know what type of like WNBA or NBA pool they have as far as players on their squad. Certainly, when I look at our squad and all 12 of the players that play for the women's team are obviously ones that played in the WNBA, and I think the men's squad is the same, if I'm not mistaken.
NBA,
all played in the NBA. but I don't know the content
Uh,
or the makeup of the French.
Oh, the
yeah,
I'm not sure on the French side, but the USA women's team is certainly just absolutely stacked with the best of the best from the
yeah,
WNBA. You've got players that you've probably heard of for quite some time now. Stewie is on there, Diana
yeah.
Taurasi, Asia Wilson, Jackie Young, Jewel Lloyd, Kelsey Plum, uh, Nafisha Collier, a little bit on the younger side. Maybe Brittany Griner's back with the team again. She's played more of a reserve role. But just an absolutely awesome and talented roster there. They've been blowing away some opposing countries.
Yeah, just imagine being on the Nigeria squad and walking out there and seeing the legends of women's basketball on the other end of the court warming up to play you. You're thinking to yourself, "Oh my God, what have we got into here?"
And then
Uh,
the men's side certainly has a lot of big time NBA names, but if you followed any of that, they've really struggled and had to do a large comeback on Thursday to get out of the semifinals game.
and I'll be quite honest with you, I haven't followed the men as closely as I have the women this year, but in basketball. But uh, we'll see what happens with that. Certainly wish our girls the best. I mean,
You
they've
mentioned
come.
Nigeria in women's basketball. Unless I missed my guess, there's a former Cardinal on that team.
Is that's not E, is
That,
it?
yeah, I think so. I'm trying to pull it up real quick.
Miss Balagoon?
Oh yeah, Elizabeth Balogun. Yeah,
Yeah,
she played for Nigeria. Yeah, she came in from Georgia Tech, if you'll remember, along with Liz Dixon.
yeah.
And, we had Miss Balogun's services, I think, for what, two
Couple
years,
years.
and then she decided that she wasn't suited for
Oh,
Louisville style basketball and moved on. But yeah, we can. I can remember talking about her guys when we used to do this show in the Louisville Free Public Library
hmm that was
many
short
moons
lived, but yeah.
ago. Yeah, when we would all gather together rather than joining here on, of course, the internet like we do, and did the live broadcast out of there. And boy, that was right around COVID time, wasn't it?
It was right before COVID time, just before.
And it got to the point where they said, you know what, with COVID, we're not going to let you guys do this anymore.
Yeah,
And
they
so,
go out the whole library closed down. During
yeah.
that time. Yeah, that was
But,
that tumultuous time right after WCHQ closed down at New Year's. We
yep.
started doing it at the library, and then like COVID came in like in March. So I mean, it was only a couple of months that we were there, and then yeah, kind of went crazy. So
They, they call it tumultuous time in Cardinal couple history.
yep.
We reached the top of the hour. It's time to get into some final thoughts. So we'll go ahead and roll into that. Who wants to start it out this week? I'm going to put it wide open.
All you pull.
It's me.
Yeah, go for it.
I guess I'm the guy because I never start.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and let me start. And I'll talk a little bit just about my anticipation for the fall and the women's sports that are going on. I unfortunately, due to health concerns and some other things, was not able to give fall sports a great deal of my attention last year. And I'm kind of sad that I had to miss out on that. But the good news is I am feeling much better going into the fall sports season this year. And I've talked at length with a couple of the fall sports SIDs and assured them that I would be in attendance and be able to report and do games and interview players afterward and coaches and such. And for me, I guess the term I could best use would be maybe it's a joyful resurrection of me being able to do what I love to do. So I'm very excited about it. And I just hope that the teams live up to my expectations. And that way it'll be fun to do. But yeah, glad to be back out there again and looking forward to the start of it. What do you got, Jeff?
I got a couple of sporting events this week to go to, which makes me very, very happy. I've got a business networking event actually on Wednesday that is at Lexington Legends, which is their, I guess, 1A, I think,
Yeah,
baseball
they're the
team down in Lexington. Yeah, which should be entertaining baseball at least at the 1A level. That is kind of a professional sort of situation to, like I said, professional networking event. And then, of course, next Saturday it is red and black for volleyball, so that'll be I'll be in attendance for that. No tickets for this one. It is first come first serve, so get there early. It's going to be a big crowd, I'm sure.
Are they going to do the food format like they've done in past years? Or
Yes, there will be the event afterwards down at the alley. There is an RSVP for that. And it's I know it was opened up to season ticket holders and people who hold the who bought the 6 game KFC Yum Center package. So if you were one of those, you should have gotten an email from the program about to RSVP for that. Um, Obviously, if you're one of those people and you don't get your RSVP, and you'll probably still be welcomed, but they do obviously really look for that to try to get an idea of how many people and how much food and all that, just for logistical planning reasons. So,
the good old parish house now in the alley.
yep.
Woof. I can remember putting up and tearing down tents there, gang. Jared, what you got for me?
Just excited for sports to start with the. I get to do men's soccer exhibition today, and then women's soccer on Thursday. And as Jeff mentioned, we're gonna get some volleyball next week too. So I finally get to see a lot of Louisville sports again, and I'm ready for it.
Say the shutter will be snapping, as they say.
Everything will be all batteries are gonna be charged and ready to go.
And we look forward to it to see what's going to happen. And we're thankful that you were with us today and listening to us today, or going to listen to the rebroadcast of this. And certainly hope all is going well for you. And as usual, thanks for being a Cardinal couple supporter and fan. And go Cards! Everybody have a great weekend.